Ko nije poželio da sva ljudska bića govore istim jezikom? Postoji li takav jezik? Postoji. Tihi jezik neizgovorene riječi. Svi ga govore, ali malo ga ljudi razumije. Lav Nikolajević Tolstoj govorio je da treba dati više odmora jeziku nego rukama.
Bravo, well done.
Black, white, Hispanic, Asian.
Ljudi oduvijek više vjeruju onome što vide nego onome što čuju. Pogledamo li s onu stranu riječi, govor tijela odgovara na skrivena pitanja. Živimo u svijetu u kojem je sve postalo važno. Svijetu u kojem odmjeravamo svaku riječ. No između riječi nalazi se tajni svijet koji otkriva pravo značenje i smisao izgovorenoga. Rijeke ljudi u kojoj svaka pojedinačna kap barata neverbalnim jezikom, svjesno ili nesvjesno primjenjujući govor tijela. Ljudi odašilju poruke bez izgovorene riječi, svojim hodom, izrazom lica, odjećom ili frizurom. I potpuna je tišina, vrlo glasna poruka.
Todos los seres humanos expresamos a través de la misma configuración de movimientos de los músculos del rostro las mismas emociones básicas. Y cuando hablamos de emociones básicas, hablamos de sorpresa, alegría, tristeza, temor, asco o desprecio.
Un menteur, un bon menteur, quelqu'un qui réussit des mensonges complexes, c'est quelqu'un qui, à un moment donné, a une coordination complète de son comportement avec le verbal.
It's very hard to lie non-verbally. It's much easier to lie verbally.
Bez obzira na samokontrolu i trening, nije moguće u potpunosti upravljati tijelom. Mozak i mišići povremeno nesvjesno, suprotno vašim željama, postaju otkrivatelji vaših tajni, emocionalne izdajice. Postajete otvoreno pismo koje će vješti neverbalno pismen sugovornik vrlo brzo pročitati. Najvažnija stvar u komunikaciji je čuti ono što nije rečeno.
Žive s nama, a daruju i daju radruju.
There really is no way to look at any one behavior and say, oh, this person is lying. It's impossible.
Compress his lips. Lip compression is one of these universal human facial expressions that people do when they are uncertain or have negative feelings, about a topic under discussion, and they can't control it.
the politician may go like this, or bite their lips, or press their lips. These are all indicators of stress, that something is wrong, something's bothering me. But it's not conclusive of deception. It merely says, oh boy, this is one I don't like.
L'ensemble de votre communication soit adapté à ce que vous allez exprimer. Vous pouvez tricher, mentir, essayer de persuader l'autre par tout un tas de moyens, mais si votre comportement est en décalage avec ce que vous dites, ça sera visible.
Dann im Februar, 17 Stunden Verhandlungsmarathon in Minsk.
Leaders tend to use a lot less gestures. They're not so animated, so they'll use more definite hand gestures. They'll be definitive when they're communicating. They'll speak less, move less, but what they do say is very succinct, and their body language tends to be slower, and they're much more charismatic, and they feel, you know, you get that sort of sense of calm and charisma around them.
Un gesto específico que he encontrado en políticos de muchas nacionalidades y no solo argentinos, y que conociendo los resultados puedo relacionar con el hecho de que hayan estado mintiendo. Permítanme realizarlo. Supongamos que un político está realizando su discurso y blande el puño y utiliza el dedo índice hacia arriba en forma vehemente, casi iracundo.
Weil beides zusammen schafft Arbeitsplätze und die braucht Europa so dringend in so vielen Ländern, liebe Freunde.
Muy asertivo en el sentido de cómo son las cosas y quiénes son culpables, por ejemplo, de determinada situación. Pero de pronto, ante una pregunta o al tocar un tema específico, cambian esta actitud de pecho expandido, espalda recta, cabeza alineada y gestos agresivos o violentos, y se encoge de hombros, eleva las cejas, frunce la frente y realiza el emblema de ruego. El momento en que realiza todo este conglomerado de posturas y gestos, más el emblema de ruego, debemos fijarnos qué dijo. Hay buenas posibilidades de que eso que dijo desde esta actitud corporal no sea cierto o incluya componentes de ocultación o tergiversación o lisa y llanamente engaño.
The most recent study, 2 years ago, found in the brainstem and upper spinal cord of humans a compartment that controls both hand gestures and speaking. So the two are linked, neurologically linked. We didn't know this 5 years ago, so just it's a brand new finding. And it explains why when I talk and when you talk, we so often use our hands along with the speech.
Ovo što ja sad radim dok s vama razgovaram, vidite da stalno nešto, kao i svi ljudi, radim s rukama. Ja dapače nastojim ne raditi s rukama, pa sam ih uhvatio. To je naučeno. A to da bih nešto radio s rukama, to je prirodno stečeno, jer govor i gesta su u komunikaciji stopljeni u jedno.
So what you want to do is put your hands on your hips, and there's 5 of these power poses. And this was research that was done at Harvard University with Amy Cuddy's team. And she showed that testing people by standing in one of these power poses where you have your feet apart, a bit further than shoulder width apart, hands on the hips, head up, shoulders back, just bending your knees slightly and taking a breath for 2 minutes, increased your testosterone level between 20 to 25%. So it was huge, which means that increases your ability to take risk, your confidence level, and just your ability to take action. And the other thing was it actually lowered the stress cortisol hormone, which was absolutely amazing, by between 15 to 20%, just in 2 minutes. So by doing this power pose, taking a breath, you increase your confidence level.
This is called the steeple. And it looks like the steeple because it looks like the church, the top of a church. In every culture where it's been studied, at least 3,000 cultures, we know that this behavior is indicative of confidence.
Očekujem zaista da to bude velika tema tamo.
Now, here's what's interesting. The person could be wrong, but they're confident about being wrong. And that's why we see politicians, Angela Merkel in Germany, always like this, very, very confident. But the minute, the very second that confidence goes away, you see the person go, oh, I don't know, or I'm not sure. But then, as soon as the confidence returns, it can come back.
So looking at gestures that politicians make can be very, very useful to see how open they are.
Predsjedniče, radite cirkus.
Engagement with somebody else and actually collaborating rather than actually, I only want it my way. You know, the finger pointing, the gun, you know, it's literally, it's like a trigger point.
Dok ste se bavili arhivima, povjerenstvima za prošlost, dok ste išli u lokalne kampanje.
Zastupniče, nešto s rukom nije u redu.
Hand gestures, facial expressions tell you an awful lot about what's really going on their mind.
Unsere Prinzipien müssen eingehalten werden.
You know, if you touch your nose or if you talk through your mouth, look away, that you're lying. There's just absolutely no science to support it.
Politicians will tell you that they know for a fact that something's going to happen. And when I see them say, you know for a fact, and then I see the shoulders elevate as they say that, then I know it's not a fact, that they're as uncertain about it as I am, because they're giving a shoulder shrug, which is a universal sign of uncertainty.
You ask somebody a question and they go, I think so. This little behavior lets in air. It's called a ventilating behavior. And what that says is, I didn't like that question. I didn't like it so much. For whatever the reason, that it's causing my body to heat up. And so you see ventilating behaviors. Now, women do it differently. Women will lift the hair in the back of their head. But it's very accurate in telling you something is wrong.
U trećoj izbornoj jedinici koja pokriva Varaždinsko područje.
I priznajem da suština naših zahtjeva nije uopće
područje.
You see, there's a recent photo of Obama and Putin sitting together, and they're actually, they're supposed to be working together, and their body language, they've both got their arms folded, and they're turning away from each other. And it's really, really clear that they're not engaged with each other. The conversation has broken down. And you can also see this with where their legs are pointed. So they might have a barrier where they've actually put their arm across, or even they've crossed their leg away from the person. Whereas if they're engaged with the person, they'd be turning towards the person, the foot would go towards, they'd be more open.
Maintenant, qu'est-ce qui se passe si j'ai envie de simuler la colère? Eh bien, c'est facile. Il me suffit de produire une micro-expression de moins d'une demi-seconde et vous aurez l'impression que j'ai ressenti de la colère. Or, c'est faux, parce que cette micro-expression que je simule là à l'instant, c'est bien une simulation. Elle n'est pas ressentie. Mais en utilisant des signaux propres à certaines expressions, eh bien, je peux essayer de manipuler mes interlocuteurs.
Habíamos dicho que en la sonrisa de alegría genuina, las comisuras se elevan ambas de manera simétrica En cambio, en la sonrisa unilateral se elevan ambas, pero una más que otra, o una sola exclusivamente. Lo cual es una sonrisa de superioridad. Es una sonrisa que técnicamente puede relacionarse con el matiz emocional del orgullo narcisista, es decir, el orgullo que siente una persona por considerarse superior o mejor de alguna manera al resto.
Raste sve što treba rasti i najvećem dijelu našeg naroda zbog toga je neizmjerno drago. A onima kojima je zbog toga krivo, evo figa.
It's just a natural emotional reaction because the lips, the muscles, again, are controlled by the special visceral nerves, which are controlled by a cranial 7 nerve, which is the facial nerve, which is emotional and linked into emotional parts of the brain. So you really have a hard time controlling it.
What upsets me is that you see the behavior, but the reporters don't ask follow-up questions when it's clear, not that they're lying, because I don't know if they're lying, but it's clear that there's something wrong there, that there's more to it. That's what's unsettling. Why aren't they asking more questions when they ask the politician something and the politician is going, well, we think everything is fine. No, everything isn't fine. You just touched your neck 4 times.
You see a lot of politicians doing this. They'll actually have a conversation and state something very definite and then start touching their face. And unconsciously, what that does for us is we stop believing what they're saying. So that's probably one of the worst things that you can do during an interview.
Uvjeren sam da će i Crna Gora i Srbija demonstrirati potrebnu sposobnost.
In journalism school, they teach to focus on the words, and they don't teach to focus on all of communication, which is words, non-words, hesitation and pauses, and body language.
Читайте по губам. No.
Hand over the mouth, touching the nose, hands over the eyes.
Na tome mi radimo. Radimo na tome da dobijemo novac za EU fondove.
Lots of agitation, any of those types of things. Often that can be seen as potential deception.
Que muchas veces, y esto es común en los políticos de nuestra región, hablan, o sea, no, una vez que alcanzan esta posición de la boca, siguen hablando de esta manera, y hablan así. Mi experiencia cultural me dice que cuando alguien está haciendo esto, si bien, como decíamos, no existe una relación unívoca entre un gesto y una mentira, yo me cuido. Si me dicen que es conveniente para mí lo que me están ofreciendo con esta configuración de la boca, no le creo.
Skilled mimist can control those things. But the average politician, they get some schooling in how to hold their body, when they give speeches. But the subtle cues, the shoulder shrugs, the lip compressions, the closure of the eye, and so forth, they don't get schooled on and they can't control it.
President Obama, it usually takes him between 6 and 7 seconds to go up the stairs of the airplane, of Air Force One, right? And as he climbs up those stairs, we can see the youth. We can see that energy. What do we like about him? We like the fact that he smiles. That is part of body language.
Možeš izgubiti, ne znam, neki javnu debatu ili, ne daj Bože, izbore zbog male greške u mimici ili držanju tijela, ono za 0,5%, što nije baš znak pameti našeg društva. To znači da umjesto da slušamo stvarnu poruku i sadržaj, gledamo predstavu. Ali kako smo vizualna bića koji svi majmuni, onda se ko majmuni i ponašamo. Umjesto da slušamo razum, gledamo dojam.
So one of the first things that you want to do when you greet someone in an interview situation, in predominantly most European cultures, is actually do a good handshake.
The human palm and the animal palms tend to be lighter in color. You can be the darkest person, but the palm will always be lighter in color, and the reason is you're demonstrating, even in low light, I have no harm. I'm not here to hurt you.
Sve što radim, radim s dobrom vjerom, čisto, transparentno, čistih ruku.
So the ideal handshake, which is called an equal handshake, is where they are parallel to each other and web to web. So the thumb comes up and it's equal handshake. But the other thing to think about is the strength of the handshake. And I know I was brought up with a strong handshake means that you're really confident and not a wishy-washy handshake. But again, we have to be really culturally sensitive in the multicultural world we live in now, because in the Asian culture, if you give a very firm handshake, you're seen as aggressive and dominant.
What is this? Please. Look at me.
All right, thank you, Pat.
Thank you, everybody. Strong hands.
Everything east of Turkey, handshakes are very soft, very weak. If you come to America, handshakes are very strong. Rather than handshake, what I look for is how people touch. So when we like people, we touch with the full hand, with the full palm. When we don't, we touch with fingertips. Our brain doesn't allow us to touch fully.
The women of the Asian cultures will give a very gentle handshake, and that doesn't mean that they're wishy-washy. It just actually means that that is part of their culture and they're respecting you. The other type of handshake is if someone comes in as a dominant handshake over you. Now that immediately tells you they want to dominate the situation. They may want to dominate you too. So how you can address that, if you want to give me a dominant handshake, how you can address that, now you could try and fight them, and that would probably be quite hard, or how you can do something really, really quickly is to step into their space. And what happens is it relaxes their arm, you can quite quickly turn the wrist without it being confrontational. And you see this a lot in politicians, and they start to pat each other. So what happens is one pats one, then the other one pats the other, and it's literally he who pats last wins. So it's a power play. If you want to take charge of the situation, you want to do 10% firmer than the other person, but no more. You don't want to dominate the situation. The ideal is to get an equal partnership.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Los emblemas son gestos que pueden ser decodificados, traducidos a una palabra o frase corta por todos aquellos quienes lo usan. Pertenece a una tradición cultural. Son gestos unívocos. Las personas que lo emiten saben lo que significan y quienes lo perciben también saben lo que significan.
Celui-ci, aux États-Unis, signifie c'est parfait, c'est OK. En France, ça signifie plutôt c'est zéro, c'est nul. Un autre geste intéressant est celui-ci. On le voit très souvent. La personne est partie, elle a filé, elle est partie ailleurs, au loin.
El llamado corte de manga.
Ensuite, autre emblème que l'on retrouve fréquemment, c'est les doigts dans le nez. C'est très facile de faire quelque chose pour nous, comme si nous avions 2 doigts dans le nez. Eh bien, nous voyons notre interlocuteur, à un moment donné, faire ça.
El gesto del dedo medio extendido, y pido perdón por hacerlo.
Ne smijemo ih pokazivati, ali takva vrsta gesti se razvija, one su kulturološki uvjetovane i razvijaju se učenjem iz okoline.
Lapsus très intéressant que nous retrouvons aux États-Unis, comme en Europe occidentale, également dans d'autres pays, qui est clairement le doigt d'honneur, qu'on va retrouver notamment chez Obama, qui à un moment donné va féliciter le sénateur McCain pour la superbe campagne qu'il a menée contre lui. En faisant ça, Barack Obama, a involontairement montré certains sentiments à l'égard du sénateur McCain.
2000 años atrás era utilizado en la antigua Roma como insulto por una razón muy simple y muy procaz. No había los métodos de higiene que tenemos hoy en día, y el dedo medio era el que se utilizaba después de ir al baño. Por lo tanto, exhibirlo era equivalente a decirle al otro que era eso que no queda bien pronunciar.
Like in the Middle East, you don't want to gesture with your thumb up because it's an obscene gesture. Here in the States and in lots of European countries, northern European countries, it means you're doing a good job. You know, thumb up.
Venga, un poquito más fuerte.
En la camorra, de acuerdo a los códigos de la mafia napolitana, este era el gesto que rápidamente hacía el ladrón que se quedaba, como decimos en la Argentina, en el slang de la Argentina, de campana. ¿Qué significa quedarse de campana? Campana significa algo que hace un ruido, o sea, del que se quedaba afuera cuidando cuando otro ladrón entraba, por ejemplo, a una casa a robar, para avisar que había policía en el entorno.
In fact, in Brazil, when I was in Brazil, this gesture is everywhere. It's called the figa, F-I-G-A. And it's a good luck symbol that you see absolutely everywhere. And you can buy it, you can wear it, you can put it next to your front door as big carved wooden blocks. And so it's so funny that this symbol, which is really rude in one context, is actually a good luck symbol in another.
El gesto de llevar el párpado inferior hacia abajo, incrementando la apertura del ojo. Casi universalmente podría interpretarse sin mayor especificación como algo que se refiere a mirar con mayor atención. Y precisamente tiene el sentido de cuidado, ojo.
If you look at the gesture for crazy across symbols, so in Australia we'll do this, you know, as though you're dialing a phone next to your ear. People don't use dialed phones anymore, but you'll do this to go, that person's a bit crazy. But in Indonesia, you'll do this. You'll drag your finger across your forehead, and that means you're crazy. But in Brazil, they do a different gesture. So they'll screw in a light bulb, you know. This person's missing a light bulb. And so the same meaning can be conveyed using different gestures.
À certains moments, votre interlocuteur ou votre ami, vous avez l'impression qu'il est saoul. Et vous marquez le geste par un doigt qui s'enroule autour du nez. Il est saoul. Ou un autre que j'aime bien aussi, c'est le poil dans la main. La personne est tellement paresseuse qu'elle a un poil dans la main. C'est comme si, vous voyez, avec l'index et le pouce, je tire un poil invisible qui est dans ma main. Je ne fais tellement rien de ma journée que les poils ont poussé dans ma main.
De En Italia se llama dita a grappolo o dedos en racimo. ¿Qué es este? Que significa en la Argentina, ¿qué te pasa? ¿Estás loco? Tiene un sentido inquisidor bastante agresivo. ¿Por qué? Porque lo que se le pide al interlocutor es que explicite clara e inmediatamente el sentido de lo que quiere decir.
Znate kako izgleda mrtav Talijan?
Por ejemplo, ¿qué te pasa? ¿Estás loco? ¿Por qué? De nuevo, este gesto tiene que ver con la manipulación muy precisa de los objetos. Por lo tanto, referido a otra persona, va a querer significar: necesito que me expliques qué querés decir, cuál es tu intención, sé claro y sélo ya.
Les vêtements ont une importance considérable dans notre vie de tous les jours, que ce soit au travail, que ce soit avec des amis. Nous portons des vêtements en fonction des différentes occasions et bien évidemment, si nous recherchons un emploi, nous n'allons pas porter les mêmes vêtements que si nous sommes chez nous tranquillement installés dans notre canapé.
That doesn't mean you have to have an Armani suit, but your appearance and first impressions, you have 5 to 10 seconds to make a good first impression.
I think suits can create imaginary barriers, and I think they can create... Wearing clothing can capture someone's imagination. You know, you wear a nice suit, someone might think that you're very rich, or someone might think that you're very successful. But it's an image, and I think costumes and clothing can be used for keeping warm. They have very practical purposes, but they also have very representational purposes. And what you wear in the street is a marker of your identity.
Que una persona que utiliza el uniforme blanco del médico va a ser, en un contexto hospitalario, más respetada, se le va a escuchar con más atención, se le va a hacer más caso a sus indicaciones que una persona que no utiliza ese distintivo. Lo mismo para cualquier tipo de uniforme, policial, de bomberos, si se usa algún tipo de uniforme los maestros o profesores en una escuela. Bien, todos esos contextos, el hábito en ese caso va a ser al monje.
Look around you. What do we like? We like a blue sky. You have a blue sky right outside. You like a blue ocean. Nobody likes a brown one or a green one or whatever. And so we have these subconscious preferences for color, for smell, for taste, for behavior.
And so around the world, colors are used as messages in clothing, on flags. Across the board, in automobiles, consumer products, color, color, color means a lot.
Najbolji vid sa bojama zvuči ovak. Veli, tata, tata, kakve su ove crvene bobice? Veli, tata, sine, to nisu crvene bobice, to su plave bobice, ali su još zelene.
Što više dolaze službeni rezultati Državnog izbornog povjerenstva, to je Hrvatska sve plavija i mislim da će na kraju biti sve jako dobro. Hvala.
The color red is emotionally appealing. It's a hot color. It's very, very emotional. Has a sexual connotation to it.
Mi kad smo bili mladi, osim kad je bilo pitanje provokacije u Hrvatskoj, povlaka Jugoslaviji, mi smo namjerno ne koristili crvenu boju. Gdje god se moglo, unatoč tome što je vrlo važna boja i tako dalje, jer crvena boja uvijek bila simbol komunizma. I onda se desilo to da je komunizam propao, da su došle američke firme i pofarbale sve u crveno.
sí, es una forma de expresión desde, no sé, desde que estás deprimida y te puedes vestir toda de negro hasta a mí por lo menos me pasa mucho eso, o cuando estoy muy contenta que estoy con muchos colores, también depende de si hace frío, si hace calor, de los estados de ánimo.
Muchas veces nosotros hacemos juicios de valores según solamente lo que uno piensa que tiene puesto el otro y sin que haya dicho una sola palabra. O sea, para mí es justamente, bueno, se ve mucho en lo que tiene que ver con la música, las bandas, los grupos, enseguida el punk, el pop, tiene que ver con la vestimenta. Yo creo que eso es esencial y creo que sí, cuando alguien está vestido de negro o cuando alguien está vestido de blanco, enseguida uno está diciendo una cosa y el otro está diciendo otra.
Too much jewelry, makeup, hair, any of those types of things, you're actually getting... People will start to think that you're not actually competent at what you're doing. They'll focus on the jewelry or they'll focus on the makeup and they won't focus on, you know, who you are.
Y de los hombres que se coman las uñas o sí que tenga algún tic desagradable en cuanto a, no sé, nariz, boca y esa parte de la cara con las manos. Sí, básicamente eso es como... Y me fijo mucho en todo, en cuanto a los gestos de la persona. Siempre, como muy importante.
Men place beauty or appearance much higher on a value scale when they're looking for a relationship than women do. Which is to say that for men, the appearance of the woman, rather than her character, her intelligence, or her experience, is much more important than for a woman. So the answer to your question is yes, the suit makes the man.
I nažalost, takva su vremena došla da jednostavno onaj prvi dojam mora biti kad ulaziš u prostoriju, kad se svi okreću, kad svi staju. Onda poslije vidiš, a nije to baš tako, ali problem je tog prvog dojma koji jako sada se promijenio.
This suit that I have on, the navy blue suit, most politicians around the world, you'll see them wearing a navy blue suit. Why? We have a preference for it. We have a psychological preference for navy blue suits. And if you were to wear a brown suit, people don't feel the same. And you say, but does it really matter? Yes, it matters to the human brain. It matters to the subconscious.
Brown on a suit, a dark brown, is decoded as being a follower. That the man that wears the brown coat is not the power person. The guy with the dark suit is the power person. The guy in brown is the order taker and the middleman.
Imao sam crne bičve, a kako se ta linija minja svaku 3 mjeseca, ja sam dobro igrao tim crnim bičvama i rekli su da moram, bili su plave, bile promijeniti, ali ja nisam tija, oni su rekli vidi moraš, ne paše ti uz tu novu liniju, nema vidi, pasalo, ne pasalo, to su mi bičve koje ne minjan.
Igra set, 6-red, Ivan Izilić. 3-6, 6-3, 6-2.
Tiende a segmentarnos, a separarnos, pero de una buena manera. O sea, cuando yo uso o elijo determinada ropa, tiene que ver con que estoy comunicando algo. Y obviamente que yo dentro de mi profesión, más que nada, suelo ser bastante prejuiciosa cuando alguien está vestido y miro, pero porque me nace, no es porque lo intente hacer así.
Nous avons, les présidents ont quelque part l'obligation de porter un costume, le fameux costume cravate. Lorsqu'un président est en campagne ou lorsqu'il veut montrer une autre image de lui, eh bien, il pourra choisir de retirer la cravate. C'est notamment le cas des présidents, tels que le président américain. Quand on voit Obama qui est en campagne présidentielle, eh bien, il va choisir de se montrer sans costume. Il va juste porter une chemise sans la cravate. On peut voir d'autres présidents dans d'autres pays adopter les mêmes attitudes. Bien évidemment, un président d'un pays du Moyen-Orient ou d'Afrique respectera les codes qui sont ceux de son pays et il ne portera pas forcément une cravate. Un cheikh arabe ne sera pas forcément habillé en costume cravate au même titre que le président d'un pays africain.
People that wear an awful lot of perfume, whether that be male or female, when they go into an environment, they're not taken as seriously as someone that has more of a neutral smell, because smell is such a powerful medium for us about how we feel about someone, whether we're attracted to them or we're repelled by them. So you could wear a beautiful perfume, but it might be something that somebody else can't stand, and immediately they're going to have an off-putting feel with you.
Ne zaboravite, nikada vam se neće pružiti druga prilika za prvi dojam.
You have to look like a guy that lives on the street sometimes. You have to look like you don't have means to survive except to buying the drugs. So that's what it was. The look was a big part of the buying drugs. I remember also, like, I used to go to the, after I get my job done and I go home, I still had my long hair, I still had a long beard. I couldn't cut it, I couldn't shave it. And I used to go to the weddings or like some social events where the people look at me like with a strange eye. They were like, wow, this guy, like, oh, he looks raggedy. And once they find out who I was, they were like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, they were never insulting me, but like I can see their faces. They would rather stay away from me than say hello.
I often tell my students when they ask me, well, what was it like to be an FBI agent? And I said, I was a paid observer. That's all I did, it was observe. Because you can see when two people are having a conspiracy. You can see when somebody's looking through a window. You can see when someone is working to get inside of a car. You can see when a man and a woman don't get along. You can see when people are faking that everything is fine when in fact they're angry.
The suit does make the person in a certain instance, especially in the corporate world. But I never judge the person by the way they look, never. That's not my style, I like the character of the person. I don't judge a person by the cover, because every person is so much different and it's so much deeper than just the suit. Some people don't have no means to buy the suit. Some people can afford it. That doesn't mean they're bad. They just look bad, but they're not bad.
Ajmo glavu dolje, sve gledaš! Sve ću vas pobiti!
Za promjene fizikalnih funkcija odgovorne su emocije. Emocija koja se bilježi tijekom poligrafskog ispitivanja je strah. Strah da ćete biti otkriveni, strah da ćete odgovarati za djelo koje ste počinili. Da li ste vi ova osoba na slici? Ne.
En la Argentina, lamentablemente, los códigos de los ladrones han evolucionado de tal manera que han llegado a producir un código escrito que colocan en las paredes de las casas, que pintan en las paredes o los portones de las casas, indicando si la casa está habitada, si no está habitada, si la habita una persona mayor que es vulnerable, si hay perros que pueden atacar, etcétera, etcétera.
Look at the mafia. Mafiosi live by the lie, and they have to be very good at it, because if they get caught, they get killed. So they learn what to say and how to perform it. And of course it helps that a lot of them are psychopaths, because we know that psychopaths, they're not worried about lying.
Basically what you do when you walk up to the set, if you look at the street, you're going to see the crack vial. It might have the yellow top, it might have the green top, it might have the red top. So basically, if you're going to walk on the set, you're not going to go there and ask for the blue tops because they're going to look at you and say, where are you coming from? If you look at on the street, you see only red tops. You have to go on the set and ask for the red tops because that's what basically what they're selling. As far as the signs, the hand signals, or any kind of body language for buying the drugs, that was never the case as far as I know. It was always by the brand. Certain dealers or certain gangs would brand their name and they would sell that kind of drugs, whether it's 212, whether it's the logo, whatever they had, that was their brand.
Da li ste vi ova osoba na slici?
Ne. And so they don't stress. They don't stress at all. And so, you know, I still feel bad that in 1965, I took a pencil from my teacher. I did. I still feel bad about it. The psychopath, he can do anything and he doesn't feel bad about it. And that's the difference where a conscience will affect your behavior.
Da li ste vi ova osoba na slici?
Ne.
People are such good deceivers in words, and you can have a lie detector and study the words, but I can look at the whole body and pick up on deceptive cues and come up with an interpretation. Is this person deceiving? Is it likely or not?
Da li vi poznajete ovu osobu na slici?
We went out to talk to an individual. We didn't know anything about him. But we said, just recently, a gentleman was arrested by the name of Clyde in Germany. And the young man was smoking. And the minute I mentioned the name Clyde, his cigarette shook, just like a polygraph.
Da li vi poznajete ovu osobu na slici?
Ne. Why would just a name make someone nervous? So I talked to him some more. And I came back and I said, so did you ever work with this Clyde? Cigarette shakes again. Why is that? I'm not asking him any question about the truth. The reason it shakes is because that name could hurt him. And the brain recognizes that this person could hurt him, and it made him nervous. And in fact, we opened up an investigation and we found out he was involved.
Sometimes it doesn't take anything to just buy the drugs. You can just nod at the guy and he knows exactly what you want, and you know that he knows that you want something. And he will get you done. And he would just like turn his head or either follow me or come over. And that would be the only body language, very, very minimal language as far as the body language, but very sufficient. It wouldn't take long.